Hello, shameless you. Happy Wednesday. Happy Valentine's Day. I have my big mug of tea with me, drinking chamomile. I'm having I'm feeling anxious, and I've been self-coaching myself all morning, and it is helping. But sometimes self-coaching doesn't make negative feelings go away. So I'll tell you what my intention is. I am really excited about this topic because I just think it's so important. We're going to talk about I see eyeballs. We're going to talk about how to think about your sex life and how not to think about your sex life and what you can do to get back in the groove if you want to. And some of the things that I'm going to share with you are appropriate. Hey, Emily. They are appropriate regardless of whether we're talking about sex or we're talking about showing up or we're talking about the dishes. Because, I think that sex is as neutral. I mean, it's certainly fun and feels good, but it's neutral. And the power that it has is how we use it to prove something about our relationship or prove something about us or prove something about our partner. And so that's the first thing that I want you to think about. Hey, Stephanie, it's good to see your face. That's the one thing that's what I want you to think about when you think about, how long has it been since you've had sex, and, what's it going to take to get back in the groove? And the only reason that you haven't had sex is because your brain hasn't thought things that has driven you to take the action of sexing. And so what you need to change is your brain. And when your brain changes, your actions will change. So my intention for you today is I just want to connect with you and give you some tools that will work no matter what's going on in your situation. You don't always have to have sex from a positive place or a place of being turned on or being horny. It's fun when you have that, but that is definitely not necessary, especially in long-time couples. And a lot of us have talked about having different desire issues, antidepressants, we're tired. I think the secret to good sex is having good boundaries. Most women don't have good boundaries, and that would explain why a lot of us aren't having good sex. So if you have all of that stuff going on, we don't have to fix everything today. What I want to do is just give you a framework that can help you get back into it if you want to. So let's start with compare and despair. Everybody wants to know how much sex other people are having and if you're having the right amount or enough. And what I want you to know is that people are having the perfect amount of sex for them. Some people have a lot of sex. I know a couple that has sex sometimes multiple times a day. They've been married, 20 plus years. And they have it when he feels anxious, the way that he manages his anxiety by having sex with his partner. And she's totally down with that. So if he's anxious, they'll fuck 2 or 3 times a day. A lot of people handle sex differently when they're anxious. They turn off, or a lot of times what happens is one partner is anxious and wants it, and so what that does is it makes the other person push away. So anyway, some people have a lot of sex and some people don't have a lot of sex. Hey, Lisa. And some people have sex in spurts. I think that's probably the most common. And that's, there's definitely something to be said for momentum. I know my ex and I, we'd been together for 19 years, and sometimes it'd be a while before we'd have sex, and then we'd have it, and it'd be like, oh my God, we should do that again. That was really good. And then we would do it again pretty quickly and do it in a little splurt and then forget, we'd get tired or whatever would happen. And the longer you go, the harder it is to get back into it. And then you'd have to get over that awkward hump and get the momentum going again. And we'll talk about that today. But it was always afterwards this like, oh, we should do that more often. We were both like, we should do that more often, but you forget. You just, the reason why that is because if you're not thinking thoughts that produce a certain emotion, hey Lainey, if you're not thinking thoughts that produce a certain emotion, then you're not going to feel that emotion. And you're probably not going to remember that you felt that emotion. Or you may remember that you experienced it, but you're not necessarily going to re-feel it again. So that's why it's really important not to worry about what your feelings are necessarily or what you're doing necessarily. I think it's really important to learn how to frame your brain and direct it to what action you want to take. So as far as compare and despair goes, you're going to keep your eyes on your own paper and mind your judgments about, the lack of sex or amount of sex that you're having with your partner. Don't make it mean anything about you. Don't make it mean anything about him. Don't make it mean anything about your relationship. It just is. It's just the product of what you've both been thinking up to this point. And so if you want to change that action, sex is just an action, then all you have to do is point your brain differently. Okay? So first of all, I want to ask you, if you're thinking about getting back into it, ask yourself, do you want to? Do you want to do it? You don't have to. You don't have to get back into it. You don't have to have any sex that you don't want to have. And this is probably the most common for many of us, do you want to? Like, do you not really want to, but it'd be nice if you did want to? In which case, you have just enough willingness to be willing to take the action. And that's a great place to be. So how would you have to feel in order to have sex? There's lots of feelings that drive sex with your partner. It might be a feeling of curiosity, like, I wonder what it'd be like to reconnect in that way again. It might just be willingness, just a feeling of willingness, like, okay, let's do it. The same feeling that you have when you just put on your shoes to go to the gym. Like you're just willing, you're just showing up. You're not excited, you're not turned on, you're not turned off. It's just like willingness, which is a fantastic feeling to have. Is it desire? Are you actually turned on? Are you horny? If so, fantastic. That helps, but it adds, there's an extra problem when you actually go into it with desire, especially if your partner doesn't have the same level. When you have a mismatch of desire, then there's a lot of frustration that happens when you want something. Desire generally is about wanting something that you don't have. And so what I want you to do is think about connecting with your desire as something that you do have. Like if you are experiencing desire to connect, just enjoy your desire. Don't worry about it being unfulfilled or unmet. That's where a lot of frustration and pressure and expectation comes from. It's not helpful at all, especially if you have any sort of anxiety in your partner. When you push, especially with sexual energy around it, it just creates all kinds of problems. So I want you to really focus on, if you're wanting to create desire within yourself, just enjoy that desire. If you want your partner, enjoy wanting your partner, but don't focus on wanting what you don't have. Enjoy what it feels like when you look at them when they come out of the shower. Enjoy what it feels like within you when you think about their body next to yours, or when you think about their smell, or when you think about that one thing that they did, or how well they do that thing with their mouth, or whatever it is that you're thinking about when you are creating more and more desire within yourself. Think of desire as a resource that is fulfilled. Desire is within you. And we talked about that in the Sexless Marriage Live, that your partner may push your button, so to speak, but he's pushing a button within you to bring something out within you. So you can bring out your own desire, you can create your own desire, and you can enjoy your own desire regardless of whether he wants to experience it also. And if he does or does not, that says nothing about your worth or your relationship or whether you're desirable or anything. Have you ever wanted something really shitty? Our desire, the object of our desire is just the object of it, but the desire is always within us, which is such good news. And if he is not experiencing desire, that means nothing about who you are. It's just that he doesn't want to experience that. And honestly, and I wonder if you've ever experienced this, desire can be distracting. It's like it's like it's hard to take care of kids, it's hard to do household things, it's hard to do work things, it's hard to go to the gym, it's hard to do all of the things that you want to do in your life and experience desire, especially when you experience desire as something that you're lacking. So if he's busy or stressed or anything at all and not wanting to tap into that feeling, that has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with the two of you. It just has to do with him and what thoughts he would rather think and what feelings he would rather feel. I know my partner gets super wrapped up in doing things. He loves activity. He loves to do things. And so to get him to switch gears is really tough. To get him to want to tap into that, like he finds it distracting because he finds work so soothing and so fulfilling and affirming and stuff. And so when he can think of sex as an activity that is also affirming and fulfilling, and when he can think of it as giving him that it gives him the same things that work does, then he's a lot more willing to do it. So don't make what your partner is feeling or not feeling mean anything about you. And don't decide that you're going to continue to experience desire or not going to continue to experience desire based on whether he returns that or not. So another feeling that can drive the action of sex is shame or irritation, like, oh, I got to get him off my back, or shame because you haven't shown up, or whatever it is that you're believing that is wrong with you because you haven't had sex. And a lot of people, a lot of times, will take the action of sex from the feeling of shame or the feeling of irritation. And I don't ever like to take action from a negative place. You don't ever take action to get out of negative emotion. It never goes well. I would much rather you get to a neutral place like willingness or curiosity or willingness is probably the best neutral place that you can get to, but I don't want you to do it based on irritation. I don't want you to do it based on anger, and I don't want you to do it based on shame ever. It just creates a feedback loop that is super unhelpful and just creates more problems in your relationship. So let's say that you've decided what feeling it is that you want to generate in order to drive the action of taking sex. Like, what feeling seems the easiest for you to generate at this point? Ways to initiate sex when it's been a while, I like to call it out. Like, it's been a minute, maybe we should get back to it. Let's have some mediocre sex. Like, don't plan on the first time back at it being top 10 sex. It may or may not be. Just be curious, just be willing to show up to get back in the groove, and know that sometimes you have to get through like an iffy one. Oh, good, my daughter just came. You have to get through an iffy one to get to the good stuff. It's like work. It's like working out. I like to think about it like working out a lot, because when you work out, it doesn't feel good the first few minutes. You have to kind of get your heart pumping and get used to it and get your muscles ready and adjust. There's a period of adjustment. But once you're adjusted, once you're in the mode, it's a whole lot easier and a whole lot more enjoyable. So that's what I have for you. Think about what feeling state would drive the action and how you can generate that feeling state for yourself. What will generate the feeling is whatever you are believing. So what can you believe that would create a feeling of desire? Or what could you believe that would create a feeling of curious or willingness? Sometimes just settling down and just thinking like, it doesn't have to be great. This doesn't mean anything. Like, I just want to get back to it. Those are great thoughts. They're not like superpower, rah, sexy time thoughts, but they're power thoughts. Like, I want this. I want to get back into this. I'm willing to experience awkwardness. I'm willing to experience iffiness. And those are skills that I want you to have anyway. So I would love to know if you have any questions. I'd like to know how this goes for you if you watch this later. I know usually you know, especially when I do it during the day, a lot of times people will watch it later. But I hope this helps you have a better Valentine's Day and take your expectations off the table. Plus, you know, even if you're not a Valentine's person, I wonder what is happening in your brain as you're floating around Facebook and everywhere else, and everybody's doing Valentine-y, lover-timey things if you're comparing your relationship to theirs. And I'm just going to tell you to stop it. Like, you don't know what's going on in their experience. And the circumstances and the situations and the flowers and the chocolates and the dates and the rings and all of those things aren't what make you feel the way you feel anyway. That all comes from within your noggin. So you can create and generate whatever experience you want for yourself. And I hope that you have a very loving experience today.